The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 40 species argued simultaneously, their voices creating a cacophony that the translation system struggled to parse. At the center of the chaos was one topic: the human intervention at Velrason Prime. High Counselor Theron, a tall reptilian being with silver scales, finally activated the priority speaker system. "Order! We will have order!" His voice boomed through the chamber, silencing the crowd. When quiet returned, he continued. "We have all seen the battle recordings. The humans deployed 97 vessels against a Kragoth force of over 300. They achieved total victory in less than 1 standard hour. The strategic implications are significant." A counselor from the Rigel Consortium, a species that resembled floating crystals, pulsed with agitated light. "Significant? It is terrifying. These humans have been in space for barely 50 years. How can they possess such military capability?" The Therian counselor that had initially dismissed human intervention clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "I have analyzed their tactics. They use primitive kinetic weapons, actual projectiles, yet somehow these projectiles are more effective than our energy weapons." "It is not the weapons," said Counselor Mirashan, a scholarly species known for strategic analysis. "It is their approach to warfare. They do not follow standard doctrine. They take risks that would be considered suicidal. Their pilots withstand forces that would kill most of us. They think like predators, not soldiers." "Because they are predators," Theron said quietly. "We have the classification reports on Earth, Type 9 Deathworld. The highest danger rating. Everything on that planet evolved to survive in conditions that would kill most galactic species within minutes." He activated a holographic display showing Earth. Beautiful blue and green, peaceful from space. Then he showed ground-level footage. Storms that could level cities, predators that hunted in packs, temperature variations that spanned 200 degrees, tectonic activity that reshaped continents, disease organisms that evolved faster than medicine could adapt. "Humans are survivors," Theron continued. "Every human alive is descended from millions of years of survivors. They evolved intelligence not for art or philosophy, though they have those. They evolved intelligence as a survival tool, and now they are bringing that survival instinct to the galaxy." The Rigel counselor pulsed nervously. "Then we should restrict their expansion. Contain them before they become a threat. Contain them." Theron looked at the counselor. "With what?" "They just defeated a force 3 times their size with minimal losses. And that was not even their main fleet. The humans have 12 expeditionary fleets. This was one of them." The chamber fell into shocked silence. On the other side of the galaxy, in a secure military facility, fleet commanders from 6 major powers watched the same battle footage for the 20th time. Admiral Krexnor of the Hegemony Combined Fleet paused the recording at a critical moment. "Watch this maneuver. The human fighters pull a 9-gravity turn." "9 gravities!" Our pilots black out at 5. "How is this possible?" His tactical officer, a younger member of his species, consulted a data tablet. "The humans use pressure suits that force blood to remain in the brain during high-G maneuvers. But more significantly, their bodies are naturally adapted for high gravity. Earth's surface gravity is 0.4 above standard." "That does not seem like much," another fleet commander said. "It is when you spend your entire evolutionary history in it," the tactical officer replied. "Human bones are denser. Their muscles are stronger relative to body mass. Their cardiovascular system is more robust. They are essentially built heavier than us." Krexnor resumed the footage. "And their weapons. These railguns. Why have we not developed similar technology?" "We did, centuries ago," the tactical officer said. "We abandoned them because energy weapons were more efficient and easier to maintain. But we designed our shields to counter energy weapons. The humans exploited that weakness." Another commander, this one from the Talron Federation, leaned forward. "That is what concerns me most. They looked at our standard military doctrine and immediately identified the weakness." "How?" "Human history," the tactical officer said, pulling up another file. "They have been at war with themselves for their entire recorded history. Thousands of conflicts, millions of battles. They have refined warfare to an art form. More importantly, they have learned to adapt constantly. On Earth, the environment changes rapidly. Species that cannot adapt go extinct. Humans learn to adapt faster than their environment could change." Krexnor sat back in his chair. So we face a species that is naturally stronger, faster, and more adaptable than us. A species that views warfare as a survival skill rather than a political tool. A species that can innovate tactically in the middle of combat. Yes, Admiral. And what do our strategic assessments recommend? The tactical officer hesitated, then spoke. Do not fight them. Engage them diplomatically. Make them allies if possible, because if they become enemies, we may not survive the confrontation. The media reaction was even more dramatic. Galactic news networks played the battle footage continuously. Talk shows debated human military capability. Documentary producers scrambled to create programs about Earth and its dangerous inhabitants. On one popular news network, host Velsha interviewed a military analyst named Kronix. The conversation had been going for 20 minutes and Kronix looked exhausted. Let me try to explain this simply, Kronix said. Imagine you are a peaceful herbivore species. You have evolved on a calm world with abundant resources. Conflict is rare. Violence is shocking. That is most of the galaxy. Now imagine you are a persistence predator. You evolved chasing prey for hours across hostile terrain. Your planet has dozens of ways to kill you every day. You survive by being tougher, smarter, and more cooperative than everything else. You develop tools to overcome your physical limitations. You build societies based on mutual protection because alone you die. That is humanity. Velsha's mandibles clicked nervously. You make them sound terrifying. They should be terrifying, Kronix said. But here is the interesting part. Watch what happened after the battle. The screen showed footage of human soldiers helping Velrisan civilians rebuild. Engineer Choi Bora teaching locals how to reinforce structures. Admiral Park Mira in patient discussions with Velrisan leadership. They did not conquer, Kronix continued. They did not demand tribute or territory. They helped rebuild. They shared technology. They established protection agreements. They treated the Velrisans as equals despite having overwhelming military advantage. Why? Velsha asked. Because on Earth survival meant cooperation. Humans learned that helping others makes everyone stronger. They applied Deathworld survival instincts to social structures. The result is a species that is simultaneously the most dangerous and the most helpful in known space. Velsha paused to process this. So what should the rest of the galaxy do? Make friends with them, Kronix said firmly. Because the alternative is making enemies with them, and that is a losing proposition. In the darker corners of the galactic economy, the black market was having a different reaction. Weapons dealers saw an opportunity. Human firearms, one dealer advertised. Direct from Earth. Kinetic weapons with devastating power. The first buyers were disappointed. Human firearms required physical strength most species did not have. The recoil was strong enough to break bones in less robust beings. One dealer broke his arm trying to demonstrate a human rifle. Other dealers tried to acquire human military technology. They sent infiltrators to Earth. Every single one was caught within days. Human security systems, developed through centuries of espionage and counter-espionage, were far beyond galactic standard. One frustrated crime lord summed up the situation. We cannot use their weapons. We cannot steal their technology. We cannot fight them. What can we do? His advisor suggested. Perhaps we should simply not antagonize them. 3 different governments sent diplomatic missions to Earth simultaneously. They arrived at the same time and were surprised to be greeted together, rather than in separate formal ceremonies. The human diplomat, Ambassador Song Hana, explained. We prefer efficiency over ceremony. You all want essentially the same things. Trade agreements, mutual defense treaties, and technology exchanges. So we will negotiate together. It saves time. This blunt approach shocked the diplomats, but it worked. Within 2 weeks, Earth had established formal relations with 3 major galactic powers. The agreements were straightforward. Earth would provide military protection and share certain technologies. In exchange, they received trade access and cultural exchange programs. The humans are direct, one diplomat reported back to his government. They do not engage in subtle political maneuvering. They state what they want, what they offer, and negotiate honestly. It is either refreshing or disturbing, depending on your perspective. On Velrisan Prime, Ambassador Velthar watched all of this unfold with fascination. He had inadvertently triggered a galactic shift simply by sending a distress call. Admiral Park Mira visited him before returning to Earth. How are your people adapting? She asked. Well, I think Choi Bora's infrastructure improvements are complete. Kang Tae's pilots are showing real improvement. We feel safer than we have in years. The galaxy was about to learn an important lesson, and some species only learned through painful. Ambassador Velthar stood on the landing platform and tried to process what he was seeing. The battle had ended 6 hours ago. The Kragoth were gone, scattered to the stellar winds. His people were safe, and now the humans were arriving. Standard protocol for a victorious military force would be a formal delegation. Dress uniforms, ceremonial guards, speeches about honor and alliance. The Velrissans had prepared a full diplomatic reception with all appropriate protocol. Instead, 3 human shuttles landed and discharged cargo containers. Then the humans started unloading supplies. Captain Lee Dane walked down the ramp wearing plain combat fatigues, not a dress uniform. He was followed by a dozen soldiers who immediately began organizing the cargo. No ceremony, no formality, just work. Ambassador Velthar, Lee Dane said, offering a hand in the human greeting gesture. Velthar carefully extended one crystalline limb to touch it. We brought emergency supplies. Food, medical equipment, construction materials. Where would you like us to start? Velthar's translator struggled with this. Start what? Captain, I do not understand. You have already saved us. Why are you bringing supplies? Lee Dane looked genuinely puzzled. Your city was damaged in the bombardment. Your people need help, so we are helping. But you have completed your military objective. The objective was not just defeating the Kragoth, Lee Dane explained patiently. The objective was helping you. That means making sure you can rebuild. A Velrissan elder named Shin-Ara approached, her crystalline body showing colors of confusion and gratitude mixed together. Captain Lee Dane, this is most unusual. In galactic custom, military forces do not provide humanitarian aid. That is handled through different channels. Earth custom is different, Lee Dane replied. We do not separate military and humanitarian operations. If our soldiers can help, they help. It is that simple. Over the next several days, Velthar watched this philosophy in action. Human soldiers worked alongside Velrissan civilians to repair damaged buildings. They shared their military rations when local food supplies ran low. They used their engineering equipment to restore power and water systems. Engineer Choi Bora arrived on the second day with her entire technical team. She examined the damaged crystal towers and immediately started making suggestions. The structural damage is repairable, but you need better reinforcement. If you are attacked again, these towers will fall easily. Shin-Ara looked worried. Our crystal growth techniques have been the same for thousands of years. We cannot change them. Then we add supports, Choi Bora said simply. She pulled up a holographic blueprint. See here? We can install carbon fiber bracing at key stress points. It will not damage the crystal, but it will make the structure 30% more resistant to impact. On Earth, we call this earthquake proofing. Same principle. But we do not have carbon fiber, Shin-Ara protested. We do, Choi Bora replied. We brought enough for your 6 tallest towers. After that, we can teach you how to manufacture it yourselves. The equipment is not complicated. Velthar watched the human engineer work with the Velrissan technicians. She was patient but direct, explaining concepts in simple terms. When the Velrissans did not understand something, she showed them instead of just explaining. When they made mistakes, she corrected gently but firmly. On Earth, everything is dangerous, Choi Bora told a group of young Velrissan engineers. Weather, animals, geology, everything. We learned to build things that can survive in harsh conditions. Now we teach you the same, because next time we might not arrive in time. Pilot Kang Tae spent his time teaching Velrissan Defense Force pilots about combat tactics. The session did not go well at first. You cannot expect us to fly like you do, one Velrissan pilot said, her voice distressed. We watched the battle recordings. Your maneuvers would kill us, I know, Kang Tae said. That is why I am not teaching you to fly like us. I am teaching you to fly better than you do now. He pulled up a combat simulation. Show me your standard evasion pattern, the Velrissan pilot demonstrated. It was elegant and followed proper procedure. It was also completely predictable. That is what the Kragoth expect, Kang Tae said. That is why they win. You fly by rules. They know the rules. So they know where you will go. He reset the simulation. Now watch. You do not need to pull 9G turns. You just need to do something unexpected. Change your pattern. Vary your timing. Make them guess, he demonstrated with the simulation controls. The movements were still within Velrissan physical tolerances, but they were irregular, unpredictable. This is not about strength. This is about making your opponent think. Every second they spend guessing is a second they are not shooting. Another Velresan pilot, younger and more eager, spoke up. This is not what they teach at the military academy. Maybe your military academy needs new teachers, Kang Tae said bluntly. Then he softened his tone. Look, I am not saying your training is bad, but it is training for peacetime. You need training for war, real war, where the enemy does not follow rules. He spent hours with them, showing combat footage, explaining decisions, demonstrating techniques. Some of the older pilots resisted. They had been flying for decades and did not appreciate a human telling them they were wrong. But the younger pilots absorbed everything like dry sand absorbing water. They asked questions. They practiced. They started thinking like hunters instead of like soldiers following a manual. Admiral Park Mira spent her time in meetings with Velresan leadership. These meetings were different from typical galactic diplomacy. There was no posturing, no careful political language, no hidden agendas. Your defense network has serious problems, she told the Velresan Council directly. Your sensors are adequate, but your response time is slow. Your ships are well built, but your tactics are outdated. Your pilots are brave but inadequately trained for real combat. The council members flickered with colors indicating embarrassment and defensiveness. One elder, Colvin, spoke stiffly. We have maintained peace in our region for 300 years. Peace is good, Park Mira agreed. But peace does not last forever. The Kragoth proved that, and they will return, or someone like them will come. You need to be ready. Are you suggesting we become like humans? Colvin asked. That we embrace violence and warfare? No, Park Mira said firmly. I am suggesting you survive. There is a difference between being peaceful and being helpless. You can keep your values and still defend yourselves. She pulled up star charts showing the region. The galaxy is dangerous. There are predator species who see peaceful civilizations as prey. The Galactic Council does its best, but it cannot be everywhere. You need the capability to defend yourselves until help arrives. Shinara, who had been working with Choi Bora, spoke up. The humans confuse me. One moment you are warriors, destroying an entire fleet. The next moment you are helping us rebuild our city. Which is the real human nature? Park Mira smiled. Both, that is exactly my point. We are capable of extreme violence when necessary. We are also capable of extreme compassion. On Earth, these are not opposites. They are two sides of the same coin. I do not understand, Velthar admitted. Earth is a harsh world, Park Mira explained. Everything there tries to kill you. The weather, the animals, the diseases, even other humans sometimes. We survive by learning two critical skills. First, we learn to fight like hell when threatened. Second, we learn to work together to help each other because alone we die. She gestured to the window, where human soldiers were working with Velresan civilians in the damaged district. Those soldiers destroyed 200 Kragoth warships without hesitation. Now they are building houses. Both actions come from the same place, protecting the tribe. You are under our protection now, so we protect you by eliminating threats and by making you stronger. But why? Colvin asked. Why protect us? We have nothing to offer Earth. No valuable resources, no advanced technology, no strategic position. Park Mira looked at him steadily. You asked for help. That is enough. The council fell silent. This concept was difficult for them. In galactic politics, there was always a transaction. Help was given in exchange for something. Free assistance was suspicious. But humans did not think that way. Velthar was beginning to understand this. On Earth, where survival was difficult, helping others was not weakness. It was strength. A tribe that helped its members survived. A tribe that abandoned its members died. Humans had taken that tribal instinct and expanded it to the stars. What happens when you leave? Shinara asked quietly. The Kragoth may return when you are gone. Then you call us and we come back, Park Mira said simply. But we will also leave you better prepared. Engineer Choi Bora is upgrading your infrastructure. Pilot Kang Tae is training your defense force. Captain Lee Dane is establishing a communication network, so you can reach Earth instantly if threatened. We are not just helping you today. We are helping you survive tomorrow. On his last night on Velresan Prime, Captain Lee Dane stood on one of the crystal towers and looked at the stars. Velthar joined him, moving silently across the platform. Your people leave tomorrow, Velthar said. Most of us, yes. We are leaving a small team to continue the training programs. and we are establishing an embassy. Earth wants to maintain close relations with Velry. The Kragoth defense grid detected the humans first. Sensor Officer Vrakthar stared at his console in confusion, then alarm. Warlord, the human fleet is exiting jump space. Already? Thruxon rumbled from his command throne. They are early. Show me. The main display updated. Vrakthar's claws trembled as he verified the readings. Warlord, they are not entering at the system edge. They are appearing inside our formation. The display showed 97 human ships materializing 50,000 kilometers from the Kragoth main fleet. Several Kragoth officers made sounds of disbelief. That type of jump precision was impossible. It required calculations beyond organic capability. But there the humans were, their gray warships already accelerating into combat formation. Thruxon felt the first stirring of concern. These humans were either very skilled or very foolish. All ships battle formation. Launch fighters! Show these primitives what happens when they challenge the swarm. The Kragoth fleet began to move. 300 warships, the accumulated might of a dozen conquests. Fighters poured from carrier bays like angry insects. Weapon systems charged and locked onto human targets. On the Indomitable, Admiral Park Mira watched the Kragoth response with satisfaction. They are moving exactly as predicted. Captain Lee Dane, launch fighters. All ships weapons free. Raptor Squadron, you are clear to engage, Lee Dane transmitted. Kang Tae felt the familiar rush as his fighter launched from the Indomitable's bay. 20 others from his squadron formed up around him. Behind them, 6 more squadrons from other carriers were launching. 140 human fighters against over 400 Kragoth interceptors. Raptor Squadron split by element, Kang Tae ordered. Delta formation. Weapons hot. Remember your training. We are faster, we are smarter, and we are more dangerous than anything they have ever faced. Show them what Deathworld pilots can do. The Kragoth fighters came at them in a standard intercept pattern. Kang Tae smiled inside his helmet. Standard meant predictable. Predictable meant dead. Engaging now, he called, and pushed his fighter into a 9G turn that would have killed most galactic pilots instantly. His combat suit squeezed his legs and torso, keeping blood in his brain. The G-forces were intense but manageable. He had trained in worse. The Kragoth fighter that had been targeting him could not match the turn. It pulled 6 Gs, and its pilot blacked out from the stress. Kang Tae's targeting system locked on easily. He fired a burst from his cannon. The Kragoth fighter exploded. Splash 1, he reported calmly. Around him, the rest of Raptor Squadron was doing the same. Human fighters twisted and turned through space in patterns the Kragoth could not follow. Their pilots had reaction times measured in milliseconds, evolved from ancestors who had to dodge predators and catch prey at high speeds. The Kragoth pilots were decent, but they were facing opponents who had been born to this type of combat. Han Wu, flying on Kang Tae's wing, got 2 kills in 10 seconds. This is easier than the simulation, squad leader. Stay focused, Kang Tae warned. They have numbers. Do not get overconfident. But he understood Han Wu's excitement. The Kragoth fighters were fast by galactic standards. By human standards, they moved in slow motion. It was like a hawk hunting pigeons. On the Indomitable, Choi Bora watched her weapon displays with intense focus. Railgun arrays charged and ready. Targeting solutions locked. Fire, Admiral Park Mira ordered. The Indomitable shuddered as 20 railguns fired simultaneously. Tungsten rods launched from the ship at enormous velocity, invisible to the naked eye but tracked precisely by targeting computers. The first salvo struck 3 Kragoth cruisers. Their shields flared, trying to disperse the kinetic energy. But there was too much mass moving too fast. The rods punched through the shields and kept going, tearing through armor and hull like tissue paper. All 3 cruisers exploded within seconds of each other. Direct hits, Choi Bora reported. Reloading. But she was already watching the second part of her plan unfold. The Kragoth fleet was maneuvering, trying to avoid the human weapons. They moved in predictable patterns, seeking to put distance between themselves and the human firing solutions. Second salvo, fire on predicted positions, Choi Bora ordered. The railguns fired again. This time the tungsten rods went to where the Kragoth ships were going, not where they were. 4 more cruisers died as they maneuvered directly into the attack. Across the fleet, other human ships were doing the same. The Kragoth had never faced kinetic weapons at this scale. Their shields and tactics were designed for energy weapons. They were unprepared for solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Third salvo, scatter pattern, Choi Bora said, fingers dancing across her console. This time the railguns fired in a spread, covering multiple vectors. The Kragoth formation was breaking apart, ships scattering to avoid the deadly projectiles. That was exactly what she wanted. They are losing formation cohesion, Admiral Park Mira observed. Captain Lee Dane, signal the fleet. All ships advance. Target priority, their command ship. Throxon watched his fleet falling apart and felt rage building. This was impossible. They outnumbered the humans 3-1. They had superior positioning. By all standard military doctrine, they should be winning. But nothing about this battle was standard. His fighters were being slaughtered by human pilots who moved like nothing he had ever seen. His cruisers were being destroyed by weapons that ignored their shields. And now the human fleet was advancing directly toward his position. All ships concentrate fire on the human flagship, he roared. Energy weapons lanced across space targeting the Indomitable. The human carrier's shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the incoming fire, but the shields held. Then the Indomitable returned fire and Throxon's shield display lit up with warnings. Solid projectiles slammed into his flagship's shields at incredible velocity. The shields were rated for capital ship energy weapons. They were not rated for this. One rod got through. It struck the flagship's port side, tearing a 100-meter gash through the armor. Atmosphere vented into space. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. Damage report, Throxon demanded. Port side compromised. We have lost 30% of our weapons. Life support is failing in sections 7 through 12. Throxon made a decision. His pride did not matter. His reputation did not matter. Survival mattered. All ships, full retreat. Break orbit and jump to rally point 7. But retreat was not simple under human attack. The human fleet had split into 3 groups surrounding the Kragoth formation. Every escape vector was covered. Kragoth ships trying to flee found human warships waiting, railguns charged and ready. A transmission came through on all frequencies. The voice was calm, almost gentle, but it carried an undertone of iron. Captain Lee Dane speaking. Attention, Kragoth forces. You had a chance to leave peacefully. You chose violence. Now you face humans, and we come from a world that has been trying to kill us since we climbed out of the trees. You picked the wrong species to threaten. As if to emphasize his point, another salvo of railgun fire lanced through space. 5 more Kragoth ships died in brilliant explosions. The battle lasted 47 minutes from first engagement to final retreat. When it was over, 212 Kragoth warships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining ships jumped away in disorder, fleeing to random coordinates just to escape the human guns. The human fleet had lost 3 fighters and sustained moderate damage to 2 destroyers. 0 capital ships destroyed. Minimal casualties. Kang Tae brought his squadron back to the Indomitable. His fighter had scorch marks from near misses, but it was intact. He had personally destroyed 9 enemy fighters. The squadron as a whole had 73 confirmed kills. As he climbed out of the cockpit, Han Wu was waiting. The younger pilot was grinning. Squad leader, did you see their faces when we pulled the split-S maneuver? I think their pilot actually fainted. They are adapted for low-gravity environments, Kang Tae said, removing his helmet. High-G maneuvers are lethal to them. It is not their fault, but it is their disadvantage. On the command deck, Admiral Park Mira accepted damage reports from all ships. Captain Lee Dane stood beside her, looking satisfied but not smug. The Kragoth are retreating from the system, Lee Dane reported. Sensors show no remaining hostile contacts within 10 million kilometers. Good. Begin recovery operations for our damaged fighters. Send engineering teams to assist the destroyers with repairs. And contact the Velrisons. Let them know their home is safe. Park Mira looked at the tactical display, now showing a system clear of hostile forces. 47 minutes. That was all it had taken to break the Kragoth blockade. She knew the galactic observers would be watching recordings of this battle. They would analyze every move, every shot, every tactic. They would try to understand how 97 human ships had defeated 300 Kragoth warships so completely. Some would understand the truth. Humans were not just another species. They were survivors of the harshest evolutionary proving ground in known space. They had learned to turn disadvantages into advantages, to cooperate under pressure, and to be absolutely ruthless when defending their own. Others would not understand until they made the same mistake as the Kragoth. Park Mira hoped there would not be many more. but she suspected that hope was naive. The carrier Indomitable moved through jump space like a shark through dark water. In the pilot ready room, Kang Tae reviewed the mission briefing one more time. Around him, 20 other pilots did the same, their faces calm and focused. "Raptor Squadron, attention," Kang Tae said, standing at the front of the room. The other pilots looked up. "We have 72 hours until we reach Velrison Prime. Command wants us sharp, so we will run simulations for the next 60 hours straight. Get your rest now." A younger pilot named Han Wu raised his hand. "Squad leader, the tactical data shows Kregoth fighters can pull 6 G-turns. Should we adjust our combat patterns?" Kang Tae smiled. It was the smile of someone about to deliver bad news to an enemy. "The Kregoth can pull 6 G-turns. Their pilots also black out at 7 Gs. We trained this morning at 12. What does this tell you?" Understanding dawned on Han Wu's face. "That we can outmaneuver them in every situation." "Correct. The Kregoth think they are fast. They have never fought opponents who evolved on a high-gravity world. Their reaction times are decent by galactic standards. Ours are 4 times faster. When we engage, remember this, you are the apex predator. They are the prey. Act accordingly." The pilots grinned. These were men and women who flew for fun on their days off, who considered atmospheric re-entry without shields an entertaining challenge. The Kregoth would learn the difference between flying for conquest and flying for survival. 3 decks below, in the engineering section, Choi Bora ran final diagnostics on the experimental weapons systems. The railgun arrays were charged and ready. Around her, technicians made last-minute adjustments to the targeting systems. Engineer Choi, one of her assistants, a young woman named Kim Hana, looked up from her console. "I am reading power fluctuations in capacitor bank 7. Choi Bora moved to check the readings. "It is within acceptable limits. The railguns draw enormous power when firing. The fluctuation is normal." She paused, then added, "Though I want you to monitor it during combat. If we need to fire continuously, I want to know if we have any weak points." Kim Hana nodded and made notes. "Engineer, may I ask a question?" "Of course." "The galactic standard for ship-to-ship combat uses plasma weapons and particle beams. Why do we use kinetic weapons instead? Are they not more primitive?" Choi Bora smiled. She loved this question. "Tell me, Kim Hana, what happens when you fire an energy weapon at a shield?" "The shield absorbs or deflects the energy." "Correct. Now what happens when you throw a rock at a shield?" Kim Hana frowned. "The shield would stop it, would it? Energy shields are designed to disperse heat and electromagnetic radiation. They create a field that redirects energy. But a physical object with mass and velocity, that is different. That is momentum. That is force. The shield must work much harder to stop it." Choi Bora pulled up a simulation on the holographic display. "We fire a tungsten rod. It is 1 meter long, 10 centimeters wide. We accelerate it to 30,000 kilometers per second. The kinetic energy at impact is equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. No shield in the galactic database can fully stop it. The best they can do is slow it down, but even slowed, it will punch through their hull." "That is brilliant," Kim Hana said, eyes wide. "That is human engineering," Choi Bora replied. "We looked at what everyone else was doing and asked, what if we did something completely different? Sometimes the old ways are best. We just made the old ways much, much faster." On the command deck, Admiral Park Mira studied tactical projections with Captain Lee Dane. The holographic display showed the Velrison system in detail, with every Kregoth ship position marked and updated in real time by long-range sensors. "They are keeping a standard blockade formation," Lee Dane observed. "Larger cruisers in high orbit, fighters on patrol routes, command ship at the center. Very traditional." "Traditional means predictable," Park Mira replied. "What is our fighter status?" "All squadrons report ready. Kang Tae has been running his pilots through simulations non-stop. They are eager to engage," Park Mira nodded. Kang Tae was one of their best. He had that special combination of skill and aggression that made for a legendary pilot. More importantly, he understood when to be aggressive and when to be patient. That wisdom kept pilots alive. "And the railgun arrays?" she asked. "Engineer Choi Bora reports all systems optimal. She has also prepared a few surprises for the Kregoth, such as..." Lee Dane smiled. "She has programmed the railguns to fire in a specific sequence. When the Kregoth see our first salvo, they will attempt to maneuver away from the trajectory, but Choi Bora has calculated their likely evasion patterns. The second and third salvos will be waiting where they dodged to. Park Mira felt a surge of professional admiration. She is treating this like a hunting strategy. She grew up in the countryside, Lee Dane explained. Her family hunted deer in the mountains. She says the principle is the same. Predict where your target will run, then place your shot there instead of where they are now. Deathworld thinking applied to space combat, Park Mira mused. The Kragoth have no context for this type of warfare. She pulled up another display, this one showing intercepted Kragoth communications. The translation algorithm had been working overtime to decode their language. Most of it was routine military chatter, but one conversation stood out. It was between Throxon, the Kragoth warlord, and one of his subordinates. They were discussing the human fleet. These Earth creatures think to challenge us? Throxon's voice was filled with contempt. They have been in space for 50 years. We have been conquering worlds for 500. This will be amusing. His subordinate made a chittering sound that the translator marked as laughter. Should we prepare a special welcome for them? No need, they are outnumbered 3-1. They will see our fleet and surrender, or they will die quickly. Either way, the Velrissans will understand that no one can save them from the swarm. Park Mira stopped the playback. Lee Dane looked at her. They think this will be easy. Let them think that, Park Mira replied. Confidence makes people careless. The Kragoth have never fought a species from a death world. They have no concept of what that means. Should we try to warn them again? Lee Dane asked. Park Mira considered this. Earth Command had authorized one warning, which Lee Dane had already delivered. The Kragoth had ignored it. No, we gave them a chance to leave. They chose to stay. What happens next is their responsibility. She brought up another display, this one showing Earth. Their beautiful, terrible home world. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. From space, it looked peaceful. From space, you could not see the hurricanes that could level cities, the earthquakes that split the ground, the volcanoes that blotted out the sun, the predators that hunted in every environment. The diseases that evolved as fast as medicine could counter them. Earth had been trying to kill humanity for millions of years. Humanity had survived by becoming faster, smarter, and more adaptable than everything else on the planet. They had learned to turn disadvantages into advantages, learned to cooperate in groups, learned to make tools that extended their capabilities, and now they were taking those lessons to the stars. Captain Lee Dane, Park Mira said formally, prepare the fleet for combat operations. All personnel to battle stations. Set condition 1 throughout the ship. Yes, Admiral. Lee Dane began issuing orders. Throughout the Indomitable and the other 96 ships of the 7th Fleet, alarms began to sound. Crews moved to their stations with practiced efficiency. Park Mira watched the countdown clock. 68 hours until they reached Velrissan Prime. 68 hours until the Kragoth learned what it meant to face Deathworlders. She had one more message to send. She composed it carefully, then transmitted it on all Kragoth frequencies. This is Admiral Park Mira of the Earth 7th Expeditionary Fleet. You have one chance to leave the Velrissan system. Withdraw now and no further action will be taken. Remain and you will face the consequences. We will not ask twice. The reply came within minutes. Throxon's voice dripped with scorn. Humans, go home before you get hurt. This is not your concern. Park Mira closed the channel. She looked at Lee Dane. Well, we tried. That we did, Lee Dane agreed. Now we do what we do best. Park Mira allowed herself a cold smile. Now we show them why Earth is classified as a Type 9 death world, and why you do not threaten people under our protection. The fleet jumped onward through the darkness, carrying humanity's answer to those who preyed on the innocent. The crystal towers of Velrissan Prime caught the light of their twin suns and scattered it across the city in rainbow patterns. On any other day, the sight would have been beautiful. Today, smoke rose from 3 of those towers where Kragoth missiles had struck during the night. Ambassador Velthar stood in the council chamber, his crystalline body flickering with distress colors. Around him, the holographic forms of 24 species debated what to do about his dying world. They had been debating for 6 hours now. The Kragoth swarm has already taken 3 systems, Velthar said, trying to keep his voice steady. They have 200 warships in orbit around my home. They are demanding our surrender. If we refuse, they will begin orbital bombardment in 48 hours. A counselor from the Therian Collective, a large insectoid being, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. The peacekeeping fleet is engaged in the Outer Rim conflicts. We cannot redeploy them in time. Then my people will die, Belthar said simply. Another counselor, this one resembling a floating jellyfish, pulsed with blue light. Perhaps surrender is the wisest option. The Kragoth typically allow client species to survive if they submit. As slaves, Belthar replied. We would rather die free, the debate continued. Belthar felt hope slipping away with each passing minute. The Galactic Council was good at talking. They were less good at action. That was when the human delegate spoke up. Captain Lee Dane was young by Council standards. Humans had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. Barely a heartbeat in cosmic terms. He sat in the observer section, not yet granted full voting rights. But he stood now, his compact frame radiating a quiet intensity that made several counselors pause. Earth wishes to respond to the Velrison distress call, Lee Dane said. The chamber fell silent. Then several species began talking at once. The humans? They have barely left their home system. They have no experience with conflicts of this scale. This is a matter for established peacekeeping forces. Lee Dane waited for the noise to die down. When he spoke again, his voice was calm but firm. The Velrisons asked for help. Earth Command has authorized the deployment of the 7th Expeditionary Fleet. We can reach Velrison Prime in 72 hours. Belthar felt a surge of hope, followed immediately by doubt. He had studied the humans. They were unusual, certainly. Their homeworld was classified as a Type 9 death world, the highest danger rating in the galactic database, but they were still newcomers. How could they stand against the Kragoth swarm? The Therian counselor made a sound like grinding metal. Captain Lee Dane, we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm. However, the Kragoth fleet consists of over 300 warships. How many vessels does your expeditionary fleet contain? 97, Lee Dane replied. The chamber erupted in noise again. Some counselors made sounds of disbelief. Others seemed almost offended by human arrogance. You would be outnumbered 3-1, the jellyfish counselor pulsed. This would be suicide. Lee Dane's expression did not change. We are aware of the numbers. We are deploying anyway. But why? Belthar found himself asking. Why would you risk your fleet for us? We have no alliance with Earth. We have nothing to offer in return. The human captain looked at him directly. His eyes were brown, a warm color, but there was something hard in them too, something that had seen difficult things and kept going anyway. You asked for help, Lee Dane said. That is enough. 6 hours later, Belthar stood in the human observation bay aboard the small diplomatic ship that would take him home. Through the window he watched the human fleet gather. The ships were strange compared to standard galactic designs. Where most species built elegant, streamlined vessels, human ships looked brutal and functional. They were covered in armor plating, bristling with weapon mounts and painted in dull gray colors. They looked like what they were, tools for fighting. A human officer approached. She was taller than Lee Dane, with short dark hair and sharp eyes. Ambassador Belthar? I am Admiral Park Mira, Strategic Operations Director for the 7th Fleet. Captain Lee Dane asked me to brief you on our deployment plan. I appreciate your assistance, Belthar said carefully, though I must confess I am concerned about the odds you face. Park Mira smiled. It was not a nice smile. The Kragoth are about to learn an important lesson about humans. She pulled up a holographic display showing the Velrison system. The Kragoth fleet was marked in red, clustered around Belthar's homeworld. Standard galactic doctrine would have us enter the system at the outer edge, then approach gradually. This gives both sides time to position and prepare. Battle would take days. Yes, this is how civilized warfare is conducted, Belthar agreed. Humans are not civilized, Park Mira said. Not when our friends are threatened. We will exit jump space here. She pointed to a spot dangerously close to the Kragoth formation, 50,000 kilometers from their main force. Belthar felt his crystalline structure vibrate with shock. That is impossible. The gravitational calculations alone would require precision no organic navigator could achieve. The margin for error is less than 0.001%. Human navigators can handle it, Park Mira said calmly. We evolved as persistence hunters on a high-gravity world. Our brains process motion and spatial relationships faster than any other known species. What seems impossible to you is merely difficult for us, she continued, pulling up more tactical displays. Once we enter the system, We will launch fighter squadrons immediately. The Kragoth will attempt to intercept, but their pilots cannot withstand high-G maneuvers. Our pilots train at forces that would kill most galactic species. And your weapons? Felthar asked, curiosity overcoming his fear. Railguns primarily, Park Mira replied. Kinetic weapons. We accelerate tungsten rods to 0.1 light speed and let physics do the work. Most galactic shields are designed to disperse energy weapons. They are not prepared for solid projectiles with that much mass and velocity. Velthar processed this information. Humans used primitive kinetic weapons, like throwing rocks, but thrown so fast and hard they could punch through modern shields? It was insane. It was brilliant. Admiral Park Mira, he said slowly. The Kragoth warlord is named Throxan. He has conquered 17 systems. He is experienced, ruthless, and he does not lose. Then it is time he learned what losing feels like, Park Mira replied. The human fleet jumped away in a cascade of blue light. Velthar remained on the diplomatic ship, which would follow a safer, slower route home. As he watched the last human vessel vanish, he felt something he had not felt in weeks. Hope. Humans were strange. They came from a world so dangerous that most species would die within minutes of landing on its surface. They had only been traveling the stars for 5 decades. By galactic standards, they were children playing at war. But Velthar had seen something in Admiral Park Mira's eyes. The same thing he had seen in Captain Lee Dane's. A certainty. A confidence that came not from arrogance but from experience. Earth had not made humans strong. Earth had forced them to become strong or die. Every human alive was descended from survivors who had endured 1,000,000 years of their planet trying to kill them. The Kragoth had no idea what was coming. Velthar allowed himself. A small flicker of hope blue light. His people might survive after all. And the galaxy was about to discover why you should never threaten someone under human protection.